things. Or as nice as it can get, with worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up for at least that last talk we had in the hallway, and dinner I've bought had since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might be simply one of those, although it's often a message with a message saying exactly where. But it's the door note she has ended our last chat with that gnaws.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle in steady rhythm finally worms its way back into my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to my now calm waters, with the little ceremony, though, still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospective, I really should have seen this coming. Wexburn is a small city, relatively speaking, compared to, say, London, Glasgow. It's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number it has to be the Tayo and Luke I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble. But darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the corridor for the primaries career day. It's not that he stands out, he's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
Single glance at him, and I know immediately that one way or another, if we ever come to bumping each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air, that sort where it makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in-between. I'll gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded like a good idea. I have no classes left until after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lessons plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. So the moment an opportunity rose, I jumped on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event, maybe stay around to assist if the time will allow it. And I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through the deputy impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back is always out of the question. How unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is. And I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with this guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealings with the teens of more or less the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listen. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every bit of patience I have as I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me and attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top, but if all else fails, I just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's anyone listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. But yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? Stands a few ways from the door, and there's plenty of people between us and to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as possible. Easy as pie. But, as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal. It's Kylie, isn't it?
I knew it's you!
God damn it, Kylie. The force of it nearly throws me off balance, sending the items stacked atop the box, tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight on my waist, pinning me on the spot, and both hands occupied, watching is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds in between slows as everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the poster, threatening to take the nosedive right to the floor.
Oh, careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess here.
My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise, then confusion. It is in that moment, then, when the instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he can
What are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
Every time we see your face, it's a bad day.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle in and of itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I just said merely fly over his head? Were my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that, actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Teo's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Teo says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Teo's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
You're like 6. I'm still of the option or opinion, he's still a piece of shite. But I must admit, his goddaughter's excitement is contagious as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She has yet to budge from her place, though, to be honest. I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around
I'm
it.
sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
Oh, you wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit until he ultimately decides against saying anything else and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks of the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you. Just because you landed a hit.
Uh-huh. Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburn Police after you, woman!
This guy.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
Snatches headed on my arms, where a single word of protest sucks into my mouth and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it now. My prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why this arsehole is suddenly acting like a decent human. He's still, quite frankly, far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, so he amply put him. Why he's acting so friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
No. Quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I ever want to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
Jelly babies. He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takako this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at their words. That statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from my childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house, growing, well, with each passing year, and sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there, familiar, though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back. Having gotten tired of clinging to me, there's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem to be too affected by the fact. Although it makes me wonder how much of it's real, and how much is there to mask the loneliness if there isn't one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of Career Day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama, it's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home.
Hello, Justin.
I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't tell Takako, okay?
Listen to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child unless unless you've made a promise of some sort. She never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone, wherever she is. Buy her a few things, and Viola, you're settled. I wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic
But
technique.
before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome, like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there, but that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shite given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you?
Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically. But it's not the same thing.
Yeah, ugh him. Small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague explanation. Not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before. Oh, on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase right. Another second passes before the douche moves on and kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both his hands on either sides of her shoulders. Kind is the last word I'd ever use to describe this man, but in this moment, in this minute, there's a smile on his face I can't place tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much, much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really, really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way, way better than I'll ever be.
For some reason, I don't think he's talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I had not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. A slight shift in a smile from one that's tender to something wistful, like remembering a memory he had always been fond of, but often kept to himself. And at that fleeting glance of a tiny, insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore?
Interesting.
If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence falls from him. Then without missing a beat, he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder in a gesture to end the conversation right here and there. Probably before he can say other things he's never intended to say, or as a child is not meant to hear.
Right, off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm going to take you there later. I'll be back.
Her voice is so annoying. She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to sudden change in the moods around her. I think when she was doing the voice acting, she just went too high. She went way too high. She aimed way too high. That and the fact her head literally looks like a bobblehead. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare clearing his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've just witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with a minute the details.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
You know, putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
Nah. I let out another laugh. more to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, I might offend the man. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observations. You're good at handling her. Ah, well, regardless of how he reacts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I have no plans of getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. Emphasis on might. The best treatment I can hope myself to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing the look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much, considering how coarse his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
If you call her one woman one more time, I'll start calling you man. Douche man!
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I've expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego more, and then even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is a sound resembling a squawk. Maybe that's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding him. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy.
Name me 5 that don't include your money, what you own, or what you've done with your life. Good luck.
My hair, for one.
Oh.
There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. This will be an abomination.
Just the real question is this before, during, or after he found out that he'd be a father?
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
Last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already in my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I've prepared myself to say dissipates, lost in the moment in front of me. He's turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings, blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his own thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note to his voice when he finds it. The words mutter under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled it out of his ass. It has come about because he's already been there. Likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier, after all. Less room for mistakes, more of a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. When you thought you figured him out, he does one more thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand, yet it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It's a mystery that catches them, or wanting to find out what's underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea, but sometimes once you get that glimpse of what's behind the machoism, emphasizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps that is as close to a friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around with a few shared silences in between, and, well, that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for this reason I can't resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before leaving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better?
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Ooh.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into confused scowl, while I meet it with a matched perplexity. It has only been 2 days, surely his memory isn't that bad. No, it is with all the alcohol he consumes.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite big, and I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
His exhales long and drawn out, his impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me, escapes me, but above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough that I saw that night, and yet he says completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Anyone got a screwdriver? Ellie's sob reaches my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough to not attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watches our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle on the situation, I have a feeling Luke very well may start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, covering her face and wiping away her tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods and immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
I disagree with that. It doesn't make you a wuss because you don't handle children crying. That just makes you uncomfortable. That does make you a wuss. I think it's past before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cry subsiding to mere snuffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
But they're
I
not.
won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out. And I'm really upset with her.
You have such a massive head. Ah, just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. God, tell me about it. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took on the challenge. Normally, I'll leave this for the homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots me. It's another weakness I have. To steel myself against before I ever think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and tapping of our feet against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not usually unusual, though. This is part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with the event, it's only natural for it to be deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of the drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's child. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn down the hallway, she had stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you expect my head to turn? Probably to brace or calm herself. Or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door slightly ajar when we get to it from inside. The sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Turns out Kylie's not the only one who's upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes, I bet, until she's got a knife and she's gonna kill your ass. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Not really crying, I'd say that's soft giggles or things like that. Not close to a wail. Alarming, regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for the fear of reprimand. If it's like that, then coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I just for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distant sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door when someone's crying on the other side, my calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. But even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up with the child beside me. It's a thick undercurrent of worrying trickling into my stomach. Take one last breath and then nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. The cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and then I turn.
Kylie?
Miss
I had to.
Pink?
Had to.
Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie. I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As I'm merely looking at the dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
Ooh. But it is not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes, falling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once, the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago, of a world passing by in a blur and features I can barely discern under the light. Little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are no horrid wounds this time. No blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips, contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck.
You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die.
You're fucking adorable. Can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging, mocking, taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coil wraps around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, tortuous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me!
Until darkness claims me, and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh, piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without
Are you
warning.
ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out for a nearby counter to steady myself at some point. My knuckles have gone white with how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure what to do as an adult. And it's in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Just stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I can speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kyla gives me when I gently push past her on my way out, or the furrow in Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw in my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've got a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort. Or is this the 5th? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. Last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse in my part after having been sick that week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories. Centuries-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my Da's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. tree giants, women who fed on unborn children straight from the mother's womb, or hell, there was even one about a demon baby. Old folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it. Most probably told to scare the natives were there back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, I'm staring right in the eyes of that woman. After all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. And the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marie McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've entered this person on my contact list. Takes a moment, and then it clicks. My eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end, she'd given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgot about it till now, and well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be done with a whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. Finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than anticipated. One moment, I'm simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, and someone's suddenly inviting me out for one of the reason or another. Days later, a friend stops showing up in her flat right after worrying reports pop up on the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. But you have enough to contemplate all this while, the phone's ringing. I've been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction. No avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon, unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
Peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious about where she's heading with this than by starting with what...
Born and raised. Third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright, I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it to lead to this. She must have not lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabel when she arrived, but that's Isabel, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be far off to think Mary Ann has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this. It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things.
See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment pause before she responds again. She's right in that. That's a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people are having a pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research.
Will you two just hook up already, Jesus?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
Ever.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place is past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me?
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had it built, up to the point where it got deserted after the last heir's death and the deed was passed on to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have probably already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished, even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's a dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. The whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more of a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know?
Imagine if all of these people just got together and said, "Yo, you see this letter? It says help me. I'm seeing a spirit." Like, you two? Wow, me three. Woo, all like 8
By
of
the
us.
way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
Ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in the light of what I've gleaned from the conversation. I don't think Mary Ann's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'll give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happening around her, too, and if she haven't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions, no concrete conclusion to be formed from what we have, and if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Mary Ann's right. There might be something more to these stories, and absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us the letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around, but it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappear in the thin air when I run headfirst into the loop. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much of my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he basically blasts through every good impression people have of him, without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth. His mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand, partly raised and almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She stands a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. And he proceeds to make a vague gesture at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling, and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it even slips out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal, and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton would get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer for free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second, I find all the choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun! You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared from the act of giving an answer. I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him, excuse myself. Disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't amuse me. He's as eager as to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by your and Isabella's place after. See you. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of the boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting. And knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please this godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kind of hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait or he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply, housewarming party matters. With inviting Bella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and while Ashton has been my first choice from the start, even if he detests attending gatherings like this. It's company that counts. We can be miserable together. That's part of the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that, but still. A tough choice, but I have to pick one. I'm trying to remember, because I think this choice hinders on, things. I could be wrong. I'll be nice, even though I don't really trust the child. I don't trust the bobblehead. I'll be nice, but only because Kylie asked. In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make an excuse, a sudden call from a friend, or things to work on. That doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's
That's
exit.
alright. I'm sure Teal doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scaring.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow, I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst the newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picked this one, and waiting for the food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. When he tries, as long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acerbic quips. Clearly, he's making an effort for this to be fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even though as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesing off expression, easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. And I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? As Kylie wanders to a nearby bookshelf, after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it and can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too easy for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keeping it strictly between the silence and the casual repertoire. This whole thing usually already feels and looks wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile. Turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably Salem well by the time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him.
Cut that out. It's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us and arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he was whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and the tasteless of the decorations they have here. Previous to that, he had griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper-class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, your majesty. Figures he'd lose patience soon, having already grumbled about everything, almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
The hell is that? Have I played Violent? No, I haven't played it.
Bob, do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he
Everything
continues.
looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, that puts an end to that talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found particularly interesting a picture and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message? Check if I were home. Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all of 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, all right? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
Words come out with more force than I've intended. By the time I realize my slip-up, my lips are already spread in a sneer. He slowly crawls up on my face.
So there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment I know I flipped a switch in him somewhere and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to know? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message for him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go after him?
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
You know, I just noticed he doesn't have a ring finger on.
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you?
Boring it would be? Not boring.
While putting everything you have aside to please them, to have your whole world revolve around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for a dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once. And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head.
Your relationship's different than everyone else's.
Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Putting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? It's laughable he thinks about those things are even comparable. You agree with him? Yeah. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship like what I was hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side, enduring everything with him, and I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger, says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20.
His words easily seep into my heart, with like sharp daggers gradually picking apart everything I've ever been assured of. Despite my self-doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me. As expected, he ridicules it. A strained, low, and rumbling a sharp sound striking the air around us, amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake and his mirth becomes too much even for him. He reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to his...
Bloody bullocks, this is just brilliant! Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better! I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has for me are more words. Scathing, each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time. Never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule him is gone in an instant. His eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away, focusing his eyes backward on where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won, till he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
I agree with that. It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, and the underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds the gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realize that if it happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. But the anger is there, ringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories whenever he needs me until other people came in between us. You've always been the one there. The dedication and loyalty should have meant something, shouldn't it? I've always been unsure always been sure of it, and that one day he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, until under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. Thing is the guy's never gonna know. Like, she's sitting there and she's pining, but it may just be one way. And I hate to put it this way, but some guys are completely and utterly ignorant, just like some girls are completely and utterly ignorant that you can have feelings for them, but they don't look at you the same, or they don't realize it, or they don't care, or they don't have the feelings you do. What right do you have? What right? How dare he, though? How dare he just waltz in and act like he can do as he pleases, says what he wants, or trample over other people's feelings. He doesn't know anything about me or Ashton. We've only met a few days ago, and yet he acts like we've been acquainted for years. He hasn't even met Ash. How can he say those things about him? The longer I hear his tirade, the more it sounds like he's pulling it out of his ass, and some misguided thinking he's better than anyone in the whole bloody city. What a pompous ballhead. What the hell is that? Normally, I'll ignore people like him. He doesn't deserve a second of my day, but a small voice at the back of my head protests at the idea of simply leaving things here. I refuse to let this go until I've said my piece and defended myself. Those aren't merely months of harboring feelings for someone he's scoffing at. They're made of years, all of it built upon memories we've had from childhood.
What right do you have to tell me that?
None whatsoever, Daisy. But did you assume I haven't seen that before? Those longing looks. The face of someone who wants something but has yet to get it? Give me a little credit here, woman. I'm not daft, nor am I blind to your silly little feelings.
No, you're just sexist.
It's plastered all over your face anyway. I didn't even need to try.
A pause comes after her while I wait for him to add to that. He doesn't, but briefly a wistful expression spreads across his face, surprisingly gentle, as if remembering an old memory from once upon a time, or something he has constantly seen in the mirror. Gone in the next second. Then he turns his attention on a box beside him. For the next few minutes he contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins inside, folding them into a clean shapes without any clear intent before crumpling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. I allow it to... Holy sweet mother of Christ, how long does it take to get our food? I allow it to go on for a little while before I interrupt him. I am not yet done.
And somehow that's reason enough for you.
Not at all. In fact, you didn't even need to stay here and listen to me ramble about it. Go on, walk away, the door's wide open. If you wish to be done with this mindless topic. You certainly won't hear me complaining if we just drop this now. I, for one, am very eager to be done with this stupid nonsense about your man and your...
You don't know me.
Pauses in the middle of folding another paper napkin into an airplane and glances up at me.
I'm quite sure we've already established that, Daisy. But go ahead.
And you know not a single thing about him.
That too is true. Are you going anywhere with this?
We've always been together since we were children. We've been friends for a long time. We know each other better than anyone.
I know where this is gonna go. Allow me to deflate your ego. If he knew you better than anyone, why doesn't he know your feelings about him?
Compared to those 7 measly years you're so proud of, we've been with each other for almost a lifetime.
Not quite. Add a few more years, maybe? It does sound romantic when you put it that way, doesn't it? Not many people get to have someone with them that long. That's what you have going for you, isn't it? Cute years playing hide and seek, going to school together, and sharing lunchboxes. Did he also protect you from bullies? I bet my socks he did. Lucky, I don't even remember anyone from my old neighborhood. Well, except for that one Nancy who spat his drink in my face years ago. You better pray I don't find him.
So, you're just going to call it that? Despite what I told you, you're just going to call it an obsession?
Isn't it?
What? Of course it isn't. Didn't I already tell you?
Did it ever cross your mind how your man would feel about all this?
You think I've never thought of that? Listen here, you.
Or were you expecting he'll simply feel the same all because of some shared history you have? Because fun fact, Daisy, feelings change and people most definitely also change with time. Whoever that person was 10 or 20 years ago, whatever idea you have of them floating inside your head, they won't be the same now.
What are you trying to get at?
Suppose that man of yours wants something else for himself. What if he never returns your feelings, the way you so desperately want him to? What will you do?
That's not going to...
Are you going to beg? Tell him to choose you instead? Or are you going to lash out at the poor woman or man who happened to catch your man's attention?
My voice falters. His eyes focus on me. The pieces of paper he's been folding earlier now left forgotten in the space between us, while he waits for my response. However, I can't give him one. He's already aware of that, and shows in his face when his lips form a lopsided smirk. How can I, when I've made my suspicions all along? One that rears its ugly head every time I simply see the two of them in the same room.
Oh, I hit a nerve.
That's none of your business.
It's true, though. The poor bloke doesn't have any obligation to return your precious feelings, nor can you force him to. That wouldn't be right.
If you're just going to mock me, we might as well sew your bloody mouth shut this instant.
Now, no need to get violent, but come on, 20 years? Gordon Bennett, if nothing's happening past that mark, you might as well consider your options, woman.
Not gonna lie, I do agree with that.
Even I wouldn't last that long.
Stop it.
One of these days, I'd like to meet the guy and share a few drinks with him, just to give the poor bloke a break from you. And probably see how dense he really is. I mean, a lovely woman like you chasing after him, and he doesn't give a shite? That's new. It'll be on me, don't worry.
I said stop it! I don't want to hear a word of it anymore!
Chair scrapes the floor as I abruptly push away from the table to stand, looming over him with the most piercing glower I can summon, angered, undeterred by my own raging, ragged breathing and clenched fists, looking down at him in the same manner he did to me throughout this chat. The only way I can keep my pride intact in front of him and the other people watching the scene unfold. I hate this man. I hate the fact that he can unsettle me like this, turning everything around what I've believed in, which were words alone. What's more awful, it's how easily those can replace the ideas I hold dear to me. Not because I am easily swayed, but because in each of them I'm aware there's a sliver of truth. Minutes pass in quiet tension. Some of the diners have already lost interest in the commotion and have returned to their meals. A waiter serves our food soon enough, not soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to her table unaware. How is she unaware? But before I can take a seat, Luke mutters something. The word spoken in the same biting tone he has assumed since earlier. By my opinion of the man, I stop to look at him. His eyes are on his food, and as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of the meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
He spears a piece of his food, pops it in his mouth, and that's it. With that, however, he leaves another challenge up in the air. Another question. One whole day with this man, and I still can't forget what his deal is, or figure out. This time, I don't rise up to it. Doing so means facing a different set of truths, and I'm not ready to face bitter truths. Those are for me to ponder on later, not in front of these people or him. His loathsome face, his sneers, are the last thing I'd ever want to see if that introspection never happened. But for all this, I can't bring myself to think of him as someone wholly despicable. The rest of the meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we manage to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. Good thing, perhaps, one, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges minutes after, carrying a bouquet of daffodils with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous one, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment's before he's unwilling to share. To my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It doesn't leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head out on our own ways. Up until I arrive at home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me. And much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. I miss warm breezes. It's 30 degrees outside right now. I'm getting colder by the minute. Help me. Send help. My hand stops short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashton's neat, script lines at surface. Dropped by earlier, you weren't around. Any ideas where Scaredy Cat is? I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions. LPD stuff. Something about her dead co-workers. Anyway, let me know how the two of you have been doing. See you later, Ash. Message he left short and straight to the point, but not without the underlying hint of friendship. He's looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about the LPD's investigation for her co-worker's death, but it ends with a formal tone by checking on me. Us. Any other day, the former part of the message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet this time, only guilt fills me, and my eyes briefly shifting towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
Have I always been like this?
Yes, Sakura, you have. The selfish. In truth, I've intended to call Ash after the dinner. If I didn't catch him here, invite him to the party like I planned, there's time. He's probably awake at this round at this hour. And my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I've had the time to think this through, it'll be the best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. Knob twists open, and with much ease, when I enter this time. Maybe, after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman in the mansion to worry about. I'm gonna go potty. I shall be right back. Do contain your excitement while I go potty. Bye! Apparently my one scare crew blow over, and the other one's pointed towards the house, looking up at my window. Will you not come out here and pick up my friend? No. No, I won't. Too bloody cold outside is why, okay? Alright, let us continue this journey. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush-strained sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tied with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from the floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Hi, you two. About a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood, but she's attempting to pry his hand off from her, the other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is he better than the other. One could potentially end up in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has a good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So, on they go. None the wiser to my presence.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud.
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up almost in unison. A displeased frown is on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken interest on the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creak open the doors, if only slightly. Then there's me running outside going, "What the fuck is going on? Keep it down!" If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen first thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
That last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. But that vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough that at the mere mention of it I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive.
Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Or is it too late for this shit?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after.
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute? What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure. In a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been. Besides having a very good point, really, they're the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and the letter she picked up at the heart of it. But, however, I respond to the question in their faces. Only one of them will be pleased with it. I think the whole point of this is to distance yourself. Before the landlady comes out. Ashton, in particular, won't be too happy to hear it. Imagine the look his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts the moment my reluctant shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head. And for a few moments, Ashton looks as if he's about to have a fit. Pause treads at its heels after. A silence thick enough one can almost hear a pin drop. Okay, and?
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like a kid? My scarecrow is looking at my window right now. They're coming, Ash.
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
The children of the corn are coming because the city cut down their field, but they're
Becca,
coming.
you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. Before I...
Is her
I'm sorry
eyes
for
filling
dragging
with
you all into
tears?
this.
Kinda. It looks that way. Yep, it would. She breathes in deeply, steadying, and in that moment something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her that night from 3 days ago. But this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight when she looks him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching. Gradually his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me, but if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand on top of his. Gentle, pleading, almost intimate, if one does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell a soul. Will never admit it even to himself, but it is in that short second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eye softens and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small, lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move. breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
I have something to tell you, too. She's had a crush on you for like 20 fucking years, and you, Mr. Detective, are gullible enough and ignorant enough not to realize it. I'm gonna go in my apartment now, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the door, and, I expect you off my fucking balcony in the next 2 minutes.
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instincts take over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all this will take us, how all of this will end, and he shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do.
You're also less inclined that this will ever happen between you and him. Sakura, meet Sasuke. Sasuke, Sakura. And where's Naruto?
But I've seen something.
He's over there in Unit 215. Playing Fortnite.
There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of...
Regards to trust granted implicitly, never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs and a promise to at least listen to her without teasing her the jibes. A favor for me, but the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well until I've understood what's happening myself. Just confess your fucking thoughts, you thought! Anyway... Hopefully there will this all started and will provide answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims dwelling in the mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Of all the cabbies in Luxburn, I have the chance upon the superstitious one. Still not as bad as finding out your car's starter refuses to crank on when it still was working this morning, yes. But it's equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way. Got the smallest violin in the world right here. All because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. Literally, I had to walk 20 plus miles today in 30-degree weather with 30 plus mile per hour winds. He walked a few feet. I do get his reasons. After all, I've had my fair taste of bizarre lately, all of which might have been brought upon that letter Isabella found here. But you'd think he'd at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not a distance 15 minutes away from it by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricting. Otherwise, that short walk would have likely put me in a bad mood long before I have to suffer in a room full of strangers tonight. Look at that weather. Look at that weather. I would kill to walk in that weather right now. Oh, you poor thing. Although this soon proves to be a problem the second the driveway comes into view and I near the entrance. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars worth more than my apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's front yard, and men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. Oh, you poor thing, the warm sun. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This, despite giving a far simpler appearance, and the rest of her own guests are not having her own husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxburn.
Welcome everyone.
And Mum said we could have been good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity, not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my taste. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. Not being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the better lack of a term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like this. I should have just gone ahead and asked Ashton like I planned. If he were here, then I wouldn't have to...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
The rest of that dies in my mind at once, so a moment of astonishment overcomes me before confusion sets in seconds later. It takes only another for my body to catch up. Once it does, when I finally turn to see it myself, it's his familiar mop of hair that catches my eyes first. And there he is, almost an arm's reach if it wasn't for the guests standing between us. Ashton Frey standing in Ermengarde Mansion's driveway, with an air too lackadaisical for someone who absolutely abhors parties of any form, or has any business here, as far as I know. The picture it forms is too bizarre for me, that my mouth speaks out ahead of my coherent thoughts.
Ashton?
He swivels on his heel with an equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across it once he sees me, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what exactly it is, because she never can figure shit out, apparently.
Becca? What are you doing here?
I came to stalk you.
Sasuke-kun noticed me?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
That, in itself, is weird coming from him, because he has no friends. It doesn't help that he isn't making any effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused on some point in the crowd, his gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you, then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Oh, well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
Ashton, what's...
Unexpectedly, he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me mid-sentence. He still has the distracted look on him, except this time his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who he's been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca. I need to...
The bounce,
There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
To meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted the sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
Conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello to remind her to enjoy the party and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I look up, Ashton's already nowhere in sight. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and head inside. And with the familiar company, however coincidental this meeting is, this is, however, shaping up to be a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. The host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost like with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There's a lack of invitations anywhere, plenty of them, in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. Every single nod is all it'll take. An evening would have been far more enjoyable for me. But pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. Why? Because doing so also means outright acknowledging the douche's whole claims. That he has to be the one to tell me that still sends my blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an arse. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have even spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? Never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You won't do it. You won't do it. You don't got the gold nuggets to do it.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of my profanities I've mumbled or taken any notice of my discomfort, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile, and then I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking, but I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during the one and only visit. Does she remember any of that? I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She probably met a lot of people like that little Becky through the years. I might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be. Don't worry, not just rich and snooty people. It's content creators too. Unless you go to like TwitchCon, YouTube, conventions, shit like that, they do not give a shit about other creators at all.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
It's like Jacksepticeye or Markiplier giving a shit about me. I don't fucking exist. I ain't on their radar.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenu, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up.
You get to go to a party. You have to network with them. Give them a little business card.
Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
Makes me want to realize who she's talking about. Well, Ashton walks by again in closer proximity than any of the other times he's done so far this evening, and still without a look of an acknowledgement our way, though, even if Miss Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers.
She ain't wrong.
If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend, then? Because that would explain those rejections.
Oof. This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My coworkers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up on my cheeks in denial already, despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed.
Why do women cross their arms like this? Which seemingly makes their boobies bigger. I know. Done.
Many here would be happy to hear it.
Then they put their arms under them, you know, and they kind of like Do they somehow, like, do women think that it's, like, support or something? Like, I'm noticing this is a trend, okay? Someone explain this shit to me.
And I haven't been looking at him.
Or is it just for plot? I do my best to summon a straight face, but before a good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious, in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I imagined myself to, although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I mention who my parents are, her face quickly lights up and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of those things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. "You have a boyfriend?" In retrospective, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you! You were the cutest little thing with glasses! And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
Same dude. It's been 20 years. Don't worry, same dude. I believe I still have the clothes she gave me. Chosen. Also, I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sake, but feelings, more than often than not, escapes him. That's because you go up to him. You grab his hand like you did earlier, and you look him in the face and go, "I have feelings for you, you idiot. And you either want me, or you can go f*** yourself." Okay.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows, until she smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married to a man she probably loves at all I'm stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
No, it's not. It's cute for like 6-year-olds. She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eye. I take that as a chance to change the subject before any more can be said over the matter. I haven't even figured out how I should feel about the things Luke sold me. Now I'm being dragged into a similar discussion.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Question. Ah, friendship has gone down even more. It's a sinking. It's a sinking. But to be frank, I doubt she's be willing to pass this up. This topic's already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best.
That's me.
If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Plot twist, they can't hear me now because the window's closed. I gotta wait till spring. Hypocrisy. That's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing And then I go and act as if I'm entitled to do any of it. That, by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one who stayed by his side the longest. And in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force him on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it until the time comes I can confess it to him. Great, if he reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't, selfish, I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke's words still strike true upon us.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
I want to conduct this. At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past 2 weeks have also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may or not even be true for other people, or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has the doubts mudding each of them. But there will be time to mull about these later, because when a hush suddenly descends into the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the right mansion.
For long, Hannah leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone.
God, I hate rich people. His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of course, I should have known, although I'm partly at fault here. Tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke can write is some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it, figures it'll be him on his own when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots. The people begin lagging behind the crowd they've gathered. Does not catch on until the cheers turn into several scandalous gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility.
Question, what have you done with your hair? Like, how did you get it to go from normal and, like, decent to, like, rolling it like it's tentacles in hentai?
God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me!
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me! I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her! Does she look like she wants a baby? Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
Motion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her around. Apparently she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more f***ed up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done and beyond repercussions this'll bring. I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke, too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hannah, well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of her guest, I'm not sure if she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman has just dared to walk all over it. It's in her eyes when she turns to her, the face of someone who demands she be given the same respect she has long deserved.
You are no longer welcome in any of our estates, our properties, and our businesses. And we will no longer patronize yours. Now, escort the girl and make sure she isn't standing even an inch within our grounds.
Why does it almost look like she wants to kill her? and it's outrage a strange sight to witness after the smiles and the grace she has carried herself with through the entirety of the party. Like this, her eyes burning bright with fury. I don't doubt she can do much more. Ruin the scandalous woman, if need be. Shaming her is already an act of mercy generous enough coming from her.
You won't show your face to me ever again if you know what is good for you, Rochelle. Take her away.
No one protests. Not even the subject of her ire as she is forcibly dragged down. Even the smile on Luke's face wavers when she eventually turns to him, pulls him out of the room for a talk of their own. For a brief moment, there's a concerted effort between those left in the hall, a short second of tense silence, while struggle to figure out what to do with themselves. But true to the kind of talk these situations attract, it doesn't last too long. Soon chatter explodes throughout the whole ballroom. Worried murmurs, clicks of tongue, and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tensions in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about him. Tomorrow it'll be the news for sure, in every local, broadsheet, and tabloid in Luxburn. Couldn't care less about any of it, simply thinking about it already gives me a headache. Even the shock has faded. I feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and apparently Ashton has disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more, that he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he's obviously has some other motive for being here. Can he at least just trust his own friends for that?
You didn't have to hide it from me.
The only relief to be had is this, perhaps. Zachary's comforting smile when he approaches. He appears as disturbed when he stands beside me, fiddling with the buttons on his camera, even though the device is on.
Eventful night, huh?
You can say that again. It was awful.
He pauses for a moment, staring at me intently, and then he laughs, a tired one but filled with humor in spite of what we've witnessed.
Let me guess. Ashton.
Oh, what makes you think he's my problem?
Just a hunch.
Down, Justine, down.
And, it's all in your face, actually.
Why does he have to? I don't understand that man anymore.
Like I always say, you should just...
Oh, you can bet your ass we're going to have a very long talk.
You ain't gonna say shit.
I'm not letting him off easy this time.
This time.
I'm sure he has a good reason. He won't say it, but he likes being around us. Heck, we're probably the only people he likes. He ain't gonna ruin that for something stupid. He can be dense, but he ain't dumb.
Sir, I contrarily would like to rebuttal with nope. But that's exactly what I've been telling people.
We'll see about that. I just want to go home. Are you done here?
Nah, sorry. I can't until the party ends.
It's all right. I'll just take a cab or something. I'll see you later, Zachary.
Before removing myself from the room, I lay a comforting hand on his arm and lead it among these people. And then I am gone, more than ready to end this disastrous night as early as possible. Question, why has no one picked Zachary as a love interest? Seriously! Big strapping man like that, he's gentle, protective, like open-minded. Why the fuck are we saying... Seriously! The girls all go for Ash. Aw, Mr. Dick. And yet... Zachary's over here. Nah, we ain't got shit, dog. Me and you, we just need to group up, need to get a home together. We'll get some cats. Get some cats, unless you're a dog person. You can have your dogs, I'll have my cats. And we'll just chill the fuck out. We'll maybe, you know, squad stream, or maybe, you know, like, hang out, play some video games or some shit. You know, it'll be a bromance. Ladies will be shipping it for years. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. And no sign of his wife. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make while he treads around the empty room, away from the media's prying eyes and the guests' judging stares. It's easy to glean how much the scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure, he appears to have mastered himself enough not to do. But an amble opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly, in the 1 second in the hallway at the school. It's a strange matter. However, to witness this out in the open, behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his own thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing he always wears with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders and he whirls around to face me, there's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
Actually, 4 times. Oh, I shouldn't? Oh.
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxport if I could.
He probably pawns everything off to the servants and Hannah. Pompous elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I've had enough of it for one night. I don't need to hear another one.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one thing that comes to mind. Is it true? You should be with your wife. What business is it of mine? Seriously, I stress this. I don't care who you're with. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care who you're doing. Not my place.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Again with the lecture.
Will you stop calling it that?
Very well, what should we call this then? A heart-to-heart?
Maybe.
Please don't. I might puke. And just so you know, I don't want to talk about feelings. Ever.
This isn't one, all right? It's just a friendly concern. Bloody hell, can't you just take it for what it is?
Pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end, he simply stuffs them in the back of his pockets and sulks. There probably aren't many people who can tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with, after all. I honestly won't give him a second of my time, and if I didn't see a different side of him. Dealing with him requires more than patience. When the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away. The tightness in his shoulders has eased, and when he speaks again, despite his rather rude choice of words, none has any venom in it.
Friendly concern, right. While we're at it, I should mention that Hana used to call that viper friend. Now I think she might want to strangle the munter if she sees her again.
The hell's a munter?
After she's done with me, of course.
I doubt she's going to do anything like that.
What do you even know about this?
Oh, I know enough. You may look like a sleazy douche, and you still are, by the way.
It's almost comical how fast his face shifts from a mild disdain to offended, but I don't let it distract me. These things need to be said, and he needs to hear them. Even though they're coming from some meddling stranger.
But you have your few good moments.
No, he doesn't. I will smack you with my slippers.
I might even say that you're a decent person, if I'm in the mood.
Excuse me while I beat her ass.
Now go. If you really love her, you've got to try and fix this yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
No, you do it tonight.
Luke!
Daisy, did you see her earlier? Was that the face of a wife who wants to have a chat with her cheating husband?
Oh, you confessed it.
Oh, well, at least you admitted you did something wrong. Good for you. How about a star? Would you like a star to go with that good deed?
Don't get used to it. Do you realize how awkward this is?
Oh, I do.
Before I've even thought about what to say, I've known there can only be 2 ways this can go. All things considered, it isn't as bad as I've assumed. However, there are still some things my brand of encouragement can't fix. His marital problems, first and foremost, and his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things that only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here pandering.
Don't worry, I was just about to leave. Feel free to continue with your brooding once I'm gone. I'm not going to tell anyone. Cross my heart.
You think this is funny, Daisy?
Yeah, you falling on your ass? Yeah. Laughter is the only response I give him. With a sly wave of my hand, I end it there and walk away. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I've stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife and another person, Miss McCullough. And that shadow. No, a woman now. Her, no longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me, while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something, a warning, but before I gather my wits and voice it out, something shuts the door behind me. As if to keep the outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. The rush of fresh air against my cheek does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now, the sensation, the fear, the disquiet leaves whenever I see her. It's unfamiliar, or it's familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms or across my chest. A fold from the tips of my fingers seep through the thick material of my shirt. Either of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head, but I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking away before any fear can cripple me again. Not wise, returning, that is, especially after what just happened. But Hannah's still an old friend, and Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune a letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to? If you're done here, let's go. I'll get you back to the city.
Oh, hi, Ashton. My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp night air, this is all allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap more sense into him. You won't do it.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him. If he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same and passive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it all, amidst the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So, speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over to his car. Although before I pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched a gentle weight on my shoulder.
Wait, Becca.
You just gonna apologize? You fucking dense prick. Pauses, his brow furrowing, his lips curved into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
A silence. I can offer him, but whether I'll believe what he's about to say is up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright. and somehow you're friends with her.
Fuck her, you dance!
But you should stay away from these people for now, especially the husband.
Oh, I hate dense people, I really do.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at the mention of his name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it greatly displeases him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that? What does he have to do with this?
Oh, what does he have to do with this?
Not a question without merit, though the man be quite abrasive, sometimes downright nasty with his words. Can't simply accuse anyone by virtue of that alone, and it is an accusation no matter what. Ashton's phrasing downplays their meaning. What right does he have to tell me who I should associate myself with, without even bothering to tell me his reasons?
Plenty. Just trust me on this, Becca.
Don't you Becca me. That doesn't answer my question at all, Ash. You haven't answered any of my questions, in fact. What's really going on here?
I want to hear it from him. If we are going down this route, I want to hear it straight from his mouth, because whatever he thinks of this man, I haven't found any reason why I should be wary of him. Sure, we started out on the wrong foot, but he's a decent guy when he tries. A simple explanation is all I want. Is that really so hard to understand from him?
The situation's complicated. One mistake and you guys could...
So, we're back here again. More secrets? Why can't you be honest to me for once?
Because he's dense.
He's a dangerous man to be around, Rebecca.
Really? Care to elaborate on that? Because from what I've seen, the only dangerous thing about that guy is his audacity to cheat on his wife.
Why are you defending him?
Who said anything about defending anyone?
And why are you prosecuting
You know,
him?
I'm getting really worried about you guys. First it's Zach, and now you're...
Oh, you're worried?
Somehow. Even that concern feels empty to me, even if it's from him.
You care? Really now? If you care, then where were you the entire party?
That doesn't matter right now. You know I can't simply...
Forget it, Ashton. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about this anymore tonight. Speak to me when you're ready to stop spouting the same barefaced lies.
Ashton jerks back as if I struck him. God, I wish you would. It's for a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing, his hands closing tightly into a fist at his side. What? What? Why does a guy, whenever frustrated with a woman, need to close his fist? You are a coward, sir. It does little to lull my ill humor, because in that next second, his answer sounds nothing of the apologetic tone I expected from him.
Fine.
Fine. A little regret would have been nice.
Fine.
In my anger, I don't even notice when I've climbed inside of his car. Not until I've slammed its door behind me, with as much force as I can summon. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. And yet, even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salem. Well, even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Seriously, the tension between you two is fucking just ripe. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an eternal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away, purely out of spite, the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he's gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that.
Don't pay
It's
attention.
late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's seeing anything at all. Figures the curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight that I just can't leave alone, and Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
Justine has some wants, apparently. I've spent so many years with him to know. This is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet and sad, although I know he has a whole case of prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go, and you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
Oof, it's getting further. Luke, we somehow like better, and Isabella, a little shy. The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by the light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I left staring after him. There's something in the way he asks that it nags, coupled with his expression that the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even after I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton has not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's a concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late.
I'm now deaf!
What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all this is a pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxford's Public Library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from friends like him. And without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the Ermengarde Mansion, that is, not simply what they chose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit, there's always something people censor. And whatever it is, I won't be able to find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. Wait for the professor doesn't take long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He's me. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with a kind smile and a casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that, even if I can. It feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
Right? Fucking Zoomers.
All right. But just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor and...
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
Hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, has also written a recommendation after a signature. Well, I can't tell because his cursive is gibberish. This is more than enough to get me those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, the very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right then and there, I've decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks...
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner. But may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
Dick pics.
It's the Ermengarde Mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
Bob Ross has quite the paintbrush.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't?
You seem to have a big, thing with them. You always get this glare. Yes.
Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something is bothering him. He almost sounds like he's Gohan when he's annoyed. Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful, distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Okay, Gohan.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
Wait. How does he know I'm connected with Ash? The plot thickens.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a little squeeze, and the gesture, younger me, was always appreciated. Quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind a door of cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment's to rest. Whatever his business is with the rice isn't anything I should concern myself about. Or is it? But somehow in the grand scheme of things now, all of it feels oddly irrelevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out, and I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty, the second floor in particular. I've always considered the place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end, poring over pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. Silence is smothering, suffocating, even with how clean they've kept the microfiche room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter. Breathing is a struggle for the air. Not far into my stay, I begin to to long for the noise outside, perhaps as a way to calm this unease. I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why, of all these things, has to be the silly nursery rhyme? I've not an inkling. London Bridge. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening. That is enough for the distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if the possibility of being fruitless by some means, it feels like I have to do it, if not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this... What do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Elabelsa will hear, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this and only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives down a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do with what little we have, and that's exactly what I've been doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
Doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of an old newspaper, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is the 1620s and beyond, before the city of Luxburn even exists in the records. When the mansion has just been built, and the Anselm is nothing more than a small, sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome. But as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all, considering how far I've looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing and praises for the couple who helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement to a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come up by the years after their deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Ermengarde more in their passing, and held them in high esteem in the years after, but it was their daughter that remained fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What's surprising, though, free at last, Air puts a stop to local slave trade. Apparently her time was also marked with more superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done by a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she does seem capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt, it's what eventually grew to become Luxburn City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown slightly forms in my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, journal I've read. None of them ever mentioned this. It's always the lord and lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes, the one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally delve into an unpleasant territory whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, become common near the end of her life. Luxburn witch burns. Which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slave she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by the entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with the curse, does it? Or doesn't it? Unless that woman following us and the slave are the same person. Tale of revenge, how cliché. However, the lack of accurate photographs it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration might start to resemble her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. it shouldn't work that way. I'll be the laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. Lack of ample light in the area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me, placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. Motions no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much of a mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back into the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, Ermengarde Hair and Elsa's betrothal. They must have had this drawing commission for this announcement. Almost looks like the thing from the glass window. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate, their likeliness likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's a man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey, according to the article, that had caught my attention previously. Her first cousin, and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself, or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about it, and not until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. Really? He looks eerily like... My head snaps back, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day, I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while the other hand moves to put everything back in the storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is exhaustion. Regardless, soon I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, and if only to stave off a headache building up from everywhere. Stop singing that tune. Sometime I've even begun humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a lot of a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. Nope. Nope. Feeling a chilly brush of air behind my back, brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's a suffocating sensation again, creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From the day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school. Thank you for following, Onich Naga. Without delay, I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. My whole body freezes. Spider thing. Does whatever a haunted woman does.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
Hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, the only sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room, the excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by a cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there is a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. Anything but a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. I steel myself, because if I do fall back and turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook! This is one Scotswoman you aren't getting into an early grave without a fight! Come at me!
Okay, Sakura, can I go on a date with you, please? I expected she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me is a smile, twisted, gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of it. Split-second decision. Before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. Don't bother looking if whatever I threw hits its mark. I run, fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, and with the other whole place almost void of people. Head upstairs. No, I'm heading for the door, fam. If there's one thing is out of this room, out of this place, as far as anyone can get from her, I can think about the rest of it when I am outside. When there are other people I can ask for help. And she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight for the library's exit. Towards safety, in a desperate bid for my life, library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. I breathe, the breath almost escapes me as I hit near the door. A little more. When out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams into my side. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. There's no one in this whole entire goddamn library through several floors. And running. The copper tang of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs, the exit almost there. If only I can... But there's no moment's respite. The next thing I know, there's... You get the shit you wrote in on. The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight atop me and cold digits slide through my neck. Tight like a vice, pressing closely in, leaving me gasping for air. Through blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam, the spite in her eyes as she looms over my body. Her grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in, my nails digging in her wrists as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go! Let me go!
Keep a slider within the bar by moving the arrows. Oh, no. Shit! No! Mother... I hate this game. I hate this fucking game. I don't understand what the hell you do. Like, someone. You're just thrown into it. I'm mad. Did I just die? Is this permanent? My lungs begin to ache, burning with the lack of air, the pain growing worse with every second I writhe under her punishing grip.
Somebody help me.
Darkness starts to feel the edges of my vision. Then the world fades. I'll give you another chance. Okay, so... I think I got this. Mother... Okay, I don't understand. Yeah, shut the f up already. Keep the slider within the green bar by moving the mouse's arrows in the direction. Oh. I get it. I was clicking. I'm a dummy. I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I could fully register in my brain and my lungs could receive. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp, loud, thunderous against the empty walls of the library. But the fear her wails bring compares nothing to the relief washing over me when it finally makes it out. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement, surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been in there for a few hours, about 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breath hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning, right now out of breath, disheveled, slumped out here, with a bloodied lip and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care. But a few passing buyers start giving me strange looks. What, does no one walk up to her and go, "Ma'am, do you need help?" Stare at me all you want. I don't give a single shit. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Not quite definite yet, but I don't want to get my hopes up. But it's still something. If Isabella is here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. If she'll even be the first who will put her faith on it. Whatever this leads us to is victory on its own. Not all that's left is to find the others, the rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if to answer my previous thought, my mobile phone lets out a beep and pick it up, simply hoping it'll be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there, the message less than a minute long, curt, and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless and do as he asks. Because this, too, is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about.